Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the New York Women Foundation's 29th Annual Celebrating Women Breakfast. Please welcome the first and only established all-female mariachi band founded in New York, Mariachi Flor de Toloache, to the stage.
Así te me vas a quedar. Con dinero y sin dinero hago siempre lo que quiero y mi palabra es la ley. No tengo trono ni reina, ni nadie que me comprenda, pero sigo siendo
Please welcome the New York Women's Foundation's Chair of the Board of Directors, Ann Delaney.
Good morning. On behalf of the board and staff of the New York Women's Foundation, welcome to the 2016 Celebrating Women Breakfast. And let's hear it for our wonderful mariachi on Cinco de Mayo morning. Yeah. On this day of celebration that commemorates the indigenous roots of the Mexican Army and their victory over France in 1862, we are honored to have in our audience the ambassador from Mexico, Sandra Fuentes Barrain. And we hope that this morning feels like a homecoming for many of you and a wow moment for our new attendees, because each year we gather over 2,000 women, and that means all of you. We are not just a packed house, we're a powerhouse. Yep. And you are here because you care about improving the lives of women and families in underinvested parts of our city. You are here because you know that when you help a woman uplift herself, she will bring along her family and her community. And we all know that makes a better city for everyone. Today, we begin by celebrating who we are, and that means the Foundation's grantee partners. Please stand up so we can applaud you. Thank you. We also celebrate the breakfast honorees from whom you will soon hear. And finally, we celebrate all of you. Your support and your presence propel the Foundation's mission and the mission of our grantee partners forward. Thank you and gracias. I also want to give a big thank you to our steering committee and our Celebrating Women co-chairs, Elba Montalvo, Shauna Wilson, and Michelle Penzer. Yay, yep. And with special recognition, we acknowledge the commitment of our board members, alumni, and founders here with us today. With their same resolve and determination, the Foundation was founded 29 years ago by a group of women who refused to accept that only 3% of philanthropic dollars went to issues that are vital to women. Fast forward 29 years, we continue their work and address persistent underinvestment in women, and today we are proud that the New York Women's Foundation is the largest women's grant-making foundation in the United States and of the top 3 in the world. Since its inception, the Foundation has supported 350 women-led grassroots organizations, uplifted the lives of more than 6 million New Yorkers, and invested more than $51 million in economic security, health, and safety of women and families. We believe that our grantee partners best know the solutions needed in their communities, so we offer the financial support to make those solutions grow. And like our founding mothers did 29 years ago, we also believe in the power of collective philanthropy, where the $10 and $100 donor come together with the $1,000 and $1 million donor, and together we become an unstoppable force for positive change. Today, looking at this amazing audience, all of you, I see we are still a dedicated group, and we are committed to creating a New York City that works for all of us. Now, let's get to the celebration. I'd like to introduce our first presenter and one of our own powerhouse women, Sophia Elijah, Executive Director of the Correctional Association of New York and our own 2014 Celebrating Women Award recipient. Sophia is the first woman and person of color to lead the organization in its 170-year history. She has been a tireless and committed advocate for decades, working from all sides of the criminal justice system against mass incarceration and calling for fairness and dignity and respect for all. I am proud to welcome her to the stage to introduce our first honoree.
Good morning. Dr. Sackler has lived her life as a social justice activist, using her influence and stature to draw attention to the wrongs in our criminal justice system. Sponsoring the series entitled States of Denial at the Brooklyn Museum, she uses this platform to engage community members in learning about the realities of the criminal injustice system and urges them to take action and do something about it. It was a few years ago when Liz and I first met, and we immediately connected when she confided to me that her favorite book was Soul on Ice. For me, that spoke volumes. Elizabeth attended the Lincoln School located on 110th Street in Harlem. Ironically, the building has since been transformed into a prison. While a student at Lincoln, though, Elizabeth protested in the streets of Harlem when Malcolm X was assassinated at the Audubon Ballroom about a mile and a half away. Clearly, her progressive politics had already taken root. Her work with the ladies of York Prison in Connecticut has been transformative for the women there and for Liz. She is a feminist devoted to putting theory into practice. In 2012, she created the Elizabeth A. Sackler Center for Feminist Art at the Brooklyn Museum. Housing Judy Chicago's controversial The Dinner Party at the Sackler Center was a gutsy move by anyone's standards, but that is exactly what Liz is about, gutsy. Some might say she's fearless. In 2014, she became the chair of the Board of Trustees for the Brooklyn Museum, as the first woman ever to hold that position in its 200-year history. She also serves as the president and CEO of the Arthur M. Sackler Foundation. As an activist and defender of the autonomy of the indigenous people of America, Liz has collected thousands of artifacts of the Native people and returned them to their rightful place. Earlier this year, Liz and I went to the Apollo Theater for the screening of Stanley Nelson's epic documentary on the Black Panther Party, and there was a talkback afterwards where Kathleen Cleaver was speaking. As we entered the crowded theater and made our way to the front rows, where I had reserved some seats for us, Liz could not repress a smile of sheer delight. The place was overflowing with activists, veterans from the 60s and 70s, and more recent groups like the Malcolm X grassroots movement, Black Lives Matter, the Justice League, and other young activist formations. Clearly, Ms. Sackler was in her element, and she sank down into her seat and soaked up the energy of a stimulating political experience at the Apollo Theater. There are times when I marvel at our many shared interests, despite our very different backgrounds. Ours is a friendship that is rooted in admiration, respect, politics, and adoration. Perhaps what I love most about Liz is that she is the real deal. She talks the talk, and she walks the walk. She's a badass lady. Please join me in welcoming to the stage my sister, friend, and co-conspirator, Dr. Elizabeth A. Sackler.
Thank you.
Yes, the stick's as tall as she is.
Hi, good morning. Wow, this is fantastic. Oh no, my stick fell. Well, that's all right. I'll keep going anyway. You know, for many years I was sitting where you are looking up here, and it is an extraordinarily estrogen-filled room, and I can tell you that standing up here, looking down at you and feeling this coming, I am 20 years younger. So thank you. Thanks for that hit. I really appreciate it. I am really thrilled at this stage of my life to be on this stage in front of you for this honor. You really, it's hard to say, it's hard to express. And Ana Oliveira and I discussed at length last year what this honor means, why I'd be invited to stand before you this morning, and where my comfort level and what pushed my boundaries at being lauded. Because I think what this morning and that this foundation's missions are most importantly about are the women on the dais behind me. And I want to thank and I want to applaud them because I hope you'll join me. Thank you. These are the people who are on the front lines to protect, encourage, create, and hold their children and their communities in the forefront for mutual service, and I think that is terrific. There is much to be said about the realities and truth of our country's past and the current state of affairs and the future that we may face. We've ignored and hidden too much, and now we all see front and center, headlined in and day out. And perhaps it's good, because now there's no escaping it, and the New York Women's Foundation has seized this moment and supports public programs confronting the issues, unveiling the abuses, and I thank you. As I look back over 6 decades of activism for equality and peace on the streets and phones, at the typewriter, striking, boycotting, protesting, strategizing, and infiltrating, I stand by these dogged demands, and the older I get, the more certain I am that righteousness will prevail. Thank you. I see then that the largest gift that I was given by my parents for this life was to be told to leave the world a better place than when I entered it. And the rewards, and I don't mean the awards, I mean the rewards, are the sweetness in my life. My children, Laura and Michael, are here for this special day, and you both have borne witness to my beliefs, my visions, and my tenacity, and I'm ever so pleased that you've inherited, whether by gene or osmosis or from your own independent wisdom, a commitment to improving the world. I hope that for all of your children, and I hope that for all of our grandchildren. I have been on the board of the Brooklyn Museum for 16 years. Arnold Lehman, our past director, and the board of trustees, staff, and administration of that great museum have been my partner in crime to bring our history to the fore. Without them, we wouldn't have the Elizabeth A. Sackler Center for Feminist Art and all that it has accomplished for equality and justice since 2007. And this year, the Sackler Center First Awards honors Angela Davis, feminist scholar activist for social justice, on June 2nd. Thank you, and I hope you will join us and join her. I must thank Rebecca Taffel for working by my side for the last 10 years. Thank you to Susie Rodriguez for creating a sacred space. Thank you to Catherine Morris for filling our space with curatorial business and brilliance. Thank you, CFA, for holding true to my mantra, equal pay, equal wall space. And thank you to new director Ann Pasternak for taking down the walls, allowing the Sackler Center to complete its mission by its 10th year, next year. Not to institutionalize feminism, but to feminize the institution. Thank you. Yeah, we are taking over the whole museum, so if you want to join us, I hope you will. Thank you, Ana Oliveira, for convincing me to stand here today. A couple of years ago, Ana invoked the word fierce to describe what we need to be to do what it is that we need to do. Ana, you are fierce. All the women behind me, and the men too, are fierce. All in this room are fierce. and we must continue to be so. I'd like to read to you what I wrote on February 7th. The political landscape of that day terrified me, and it hasn't changed. I read my writing as an offering to you to give context to my life's thinking. I wrote, quote, "This January, I received a form letter from Ann Burroughs, board chair of Amnesty International. The top countries where Amnesty fights against the torture and execution of its populations are China, North Korea, El Salvador, Egypt, Iran, Ukraine, Brazil, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, the Congo, Saudi Arabia, and the United States of America." I'm writing this on Sunday. I look out my window and suddenly aware of the blaze of lights from thousands of apartments. Oh, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Apparently, and should I say, even in New York, this American ritual remains untouched by our contemporary rule of mass incarceration, state-sanctioned abuse, privatization of prisons, prisons filled for profit, sold on the stock exchange, hidden in our institutional and personal investment strategies. If you look for them, you will find them. They are our concentration camps. Hannah Arendt, philosopher, writer, and journalist who covered the Eichmann trials, wrote in The New Yorker, "The sad truth is that evil is done by people who never make up their minds to be good or evil. That is the banality of evil, and how could they not have known? Now, and in solidarity, voices of women around the world must rise up to abolish abuse and horror for our sisters, for our brothers, mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters who are or may become one of the oppressed. For silence renders those voiceless conspirators complicit in the ongoing horrors. For how could we not know?" This is the time to act, because we can no longer afford to ignore. This is the time to see, because we can no longer afford to be blind. We must no longer remain silent, because we can no longer afford such a luxury. It is the time to say love, not hate, good, not evil. That is my choice. End quote, EAS, February 7th, 2016. So I thank the New York Women's Foundation. I thank you, Ann Delaney. I thank you, Ana Oliveira, for sharing the things I hold dearest and providing me a safe space for me to speak my truth. For a civil society, for equitable communities, for an end to fascist rule, and for Mother Earth to spin in her galaxy in beauty and in peace. And as we plant those seeds, remember Ann Patchett's quote, "The finest qualities of our nature, like the blooms on fruits, must be preserved only by the most delicate handling." I hope I stand before you this morning as a symbol of those fierce and delicate. I've had the good fortune and pleasure of working with so many of you as we strive to reach that place, a sisterhood of truth and of justice. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please welcome Jessica Spaulding from the Foundation's grantee partner, Start Small, Think Big.
Let me check my mic. Good morning. Okay. I'm gonna try to get through this. I was raised to believe that perfection was the only way out of poverty. So I dedicated my life to being perfect. Growing up in Harlem, I always looked up to my mother. She was an operating engineer who worked at the pit of Ground Zero after the 9/11 attacks. She was working 24 and 36-hour shifts. That meant in 2001, on my 4th day of high school, I became the woman of the house. All of the chores and care for my brother shifted to me. I felt an extreme amount of pressure to succeed. While education was always the priority in my house, food was my fun. Watching Food Network shows and learning how to make my mother's favorite treat, chocolate, was the only way to get around her strict health food only rule. That brought us closer together. I even imagined a future where I could make a living making chocolate. However, it was the hard work that earned me a spot at the #1 historically black college in the country, Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. It felt as if I had reached the pinnacle of success and fulfilled the expectations that everyone had for me. But I graduated from Spelman with no job offers. And no matter how hard I tried, nothing turned me into Oprah. I even attempted to start my own chocolate company, but with no real business knowledge or support, it failed before it even got off the ground. And I felt defeated. So I went home to Harlem, I landed a part-time job at a local nonprofit, and shortly after that, I became a mother, not once, but twice. But I felt as if I had ruined my chances of ever becoming anything near what I dreamed for myself. With 2 children and no childcare, I was unable to work. On top of that, I faced a negligent landlord who made my apartment unlivable, forcing me to move back in with my mother while I figured out how to fight back. I lost my home, my job, my sense of self. I hit rock bottom. I felt I had no choice but to apply for public assistance. So I filled out an application that asked me everything but my bra size. And after a 4-hour wait with my 5-month-old daughter in a welfare office, I submitted my application only for the worker to say, "You don't qualify." He told me that having a bachelor's degree disqualified me from getting job training. So if I wanted public assistance, I'd have to get a job first. I'm not lying, it's real. Like, I burst out laughing, hysterically, and I walked out. The rejection made me realize I had to look to myself for a solution. So I focused on fighting my landlord in court, and I won. Winning that battle gave me the hope and empowered me to think about the dream I had never quite given up on, starting my own chocolate company. I decided to enter the New York Startup Business Plan Competition, and I knew I needed capital, so I was referred to Axion. They fought tooth and nail to get as much money as they could for me, $2,800, more money than I had made in the entire previous year. In order for my business to succeed, I knew I needed legal assistance. I was connected with Start Small, Think Big, and they took me in with open arms. They set me up with an experienced attorney who gave me sound legal advice on where my $2,800 to go, not my cousins telling me where I should spend my money. They not the best business people. With the support and guidance of Start Small, Think Big, I was able to make my first batch of chocolates just in time for the business plan competition. The chocolates and the plan were good enough to win the first prize of $15,000. Now I finally launched my dream business, Harlem Chocolate Factory. My goal is to bring the rich story of Harlem to people all over the world through my chocolates. I want to show my children that you can make your dreams a reality. Although the last few years may have been difficult, I can tell you one thing. I was supposed to read it real fancy, but ain't no challenge ever gonna lead to my defeat. I credit my success to the incredible support of my family and my friends at Axion and Start Small, Think Big. I want Harlem Chocolate Factory to be a beacon of light for others, as it has always been for me and my family. And I know it will be. Thank you.
Please welcome Anne Delaney back to the stage.
Thank you, Jessica, for your story. That was wonderful to hear. Thank you. One of the most effective ways that we accelerate change is through partnerships. And I'm here to present the Vision Award to this pioneering group of leaders who developed the Young Women's Initiative. We could not be more proud to honor these leaders as they advocate for equity in education, healthcare, economic opportunity, and access to justice. These issues, which must be seen in tandem, have the potential to accelerate lasting change towards gender and racial equality. New York City Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito had been meeting with these young women about the challenges they faced. They revealed that they needed help to deal with the complexities of living in under-resourced communities. The speaker heard their call and recognized that their courage to speak up represented the beginning of an important partnership. As you heard last May at our breakfast, the speaker boldly announced the Young Women's Initiative. And in just 1 year, this multi-sector partnership between research and policy experts, advocates, and the young women themselves completed its planning process, and the report of recommendations is soon to be released. This is the nation's first ever effort dedicated to girls, young women, and trans youth of color. Already, there are 3 major outcomes. First, the speaker and the New York City Council have committed $10 million to the initiative. The New York Women's Foundation, along with partners in philanthropy, responded with another $10 million, making this a historic $20 million commitment to our city's girls and young women and trans youth of color. Yep, it's the second outcome. New York City has the honor of forming the first Young Women's Advisory Council in the nation, and the young women will continue to advise not only the City Council, but other branches of government and philanthropy. This is an outstanding model of how to use invaluable guidance from young leaders. And finally, 6 of our partner women's foundations from across the country have been inspired by this model and have responded by forming their own partnerships, their own initiatives. One of them, the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, headed by Lee Becker, is here today. This initiative is the quintessential example of what we here all know. Women make great partners. And when we add our allies, we make great things happen. To that end, the New York Women's Foundation is proud to acknowledge the courageous leadership of the Young Women's Initiative by presenting to these 6 powerful women our Vision Award. As the initiative itself began with young women, we begin by honoring the co-chairs of the Young Women's Advisory Council, Cherno Biko, Gloria Malone, and Amanda Matos. Please welcome Cherno, Gloria, and Amanda to the stage.
Who is most knowledgeable about the experience of being a young woman of color? The answer is undoubtedly young women of color themselves. The Young Women's Initiative, by centering us, models the importance of moving away from a deficit model and into a strength-based approach where young women of color are the ones crafting solutions for themselves and their own communities. We have the answers. We just need to be seen, heard, and taken seriously as experts. I am deeply honored to accept this recognition and continue to work alongside the Young Women's Initiative because what we are doing is urgent. It is now, and it needs to continue. For the longest time, growing up in the Bronx as a young Puerto Rican woman, I struggled not seeing myself reflected in leadership and in positions of power. And while this has changed in the last few years, more needs to be done. More young women of color need to be invested in, and not just believed in, but be believed. It can't just be me or my fellow co-chairs, and I love that the Young Women's Advisory Council is moving towards this direction.
Good morning. Oh, okay. Let me hear you say, "Hey, Miss Biko." Hey, Miss Biko. Say, "Hey, Miss Biko." Hey, Miss Biko. Thank you. That's me. Hi, Mom. What an honor to be here with all of you so early in the morning. Too often, Black trans girls like myself get excluded from these conversations and initiatives, making us one of the most vulnerable and at-risk populations. In fact, last year was our deadliest year on record. And so when they asked me to participate in this campaign and choose what I would be after our hashtag #SheWillBe, the only thing I felt justified in wishing for was to simply be alive. In the words of the poet Lucille Clifton, she says, "Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I seek to be except myself? I made it up. Here, on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight the other hand. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." I came here this morning to tell y'all that we must make space for disabled women, for HIV positive and incarcerated women, undocumented women, and sex workers. We must make space for them to self-determine and survive because lives are at stake. And that's what makes the Young Women's Advisory Council so special. Starting now, right now, it has to be all of us or none of us. So I'm humbled to accept this award, not as a job well done, but as a reminder that there's so much work left to do. Come on, man. Turn up.
Well, I'm not really sure how to follow that up, but good morning. I really want to echo what my co-chairs and amazing friends and sisters have said before me. And I also want to talk about my personal experiences as a young Black single mom, a young single Black Latina mother. I had my daughter when I was 15 years old. And it's really funny to be standing here, which is May, Teenage Pregnancy Prevention Month, a month that uses shame, that uses stigma, and that uses really harmful stereotypes which impacts the ways in which gatekeepers interacted with me, including my academic advisor not speaking to me because she just guessed I wasn't going to graduate high school. I did, on time, with honors, and with the 4.0. So thank you, advisor, who didn't want to talk to me. But unfortunately, that's the story for a lot of young women of color who are or aren't pregnant and parenting, right? And as someone who loves to work with people and policy, being part of the Young Women's Initiative and the Young Women's Advisory Council has been an extremely transformative experience. But in all honesty, if it wasn't for the New York Women's Foundation's funding and Girls for Gender Equity making compensation a pillar of this work, I would have not been able to participate. With all that, I say that I ask that all of us begin to look at transformative and innovative ways to compensate young women of color for their expertise. Oftentimes, they are called and they are not compensated. Oftentimes, they are quoted and they are not compensated. We are researched and prod and poked, and we are never compensated. And that needs to change. Young women are doing amazing work every day, outside of nonprofits, outside of government, outside of organizations, and yet we aren't able to scale up this amazing work because we have to work several different jobs to make ends meet. 501c3s, government, and programs are not the only place where magic happens. Oftentimes, it is in the hearts and in the brains of young women of color themselves, but they are unable to scale up the work that they want to do. I want to say that young women of girls deserve funding too. Let us continue to scale up how we compensate young women of color for the valuable and industrious members of society that we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, Cherno, and Gloria. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Daniel Mouse-Lee and Joanne Smith to the podium, our co-chairs of the initiative.
Good morning. I hope you realize how beautiful this room looks from up here. Such an honor to be here. I want to thank the New York Women's Foundation and my newfound sister friends, Joanne N. Smith and Ana Oliveira, for allowing me to share this space and table with them. When I thought about what I would say today, all I could hear was the melody of Sweet Honey in the Rock saying, "We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes." As the CEO of the YWCA, running programs for girls in Brooklyn and Manhattan, I know the difficulty of funding and supporting and uplifting things that enhance the lives of women and girls. And so I thank the speaker for her leadership in bringing the issues of girls of color to the fore. We oftentimes think that we are doing this work in isolation, that we are doing it alone. And that's not the case. And everything that we need to reach girls in Coney Island, in East New York, in Brownsville, in Far Rockaway, in Harlem, in Washington Heights, everything that we need is right here in this room. This is the Brain Trust. And so I look forward to continuing to uplift the work of the Young Women's Initiative. This is not the end of a process. This is the beginning. We have marching orders. We have young women at the fore of this movement, and I stand ready to follow their leadership and find out what they need and what the agenda is that they set, and to continue to serve. Thank you so much.
What a rock star group to work with. And I want to acknowledge the rock stars who are in the room. The
150 Young Women Initiatives, partners and co-chairs. If you're here, can you stand up? If you participated in the Young Women's Initiative, if your organization participated, if you are a co-chair, I'm looking right at you all, so I know that you all are in this room. I have seen y'all, organizations. Oh, you all are, all right. Because this is a collective celebration. This work could not have happened without the commitment, without the vision, without the hard work, without the courage of young women of color, of our elders of color. I mean, with this process, we got to learn from each other. It was reciprocal. It was an understanding that there are no throwaways, that we all have value. It was a year ago that we stood here on this stage and we said that this intergenerational process would happen. Rarely are those kind of successes that we're celebrating today celebrated so quickly. We have momentum, we have urgency, we have a desire. What made this really successful is that we went where the wisdom was, right? And that wasn't positional authority. That wasn't we need every executive director and president in the room and researcher from a university in the room. We needed the best. We needed the wisest. We needed the ones most experienced, okay? The ones who are experts because they understand from their position what it would take for them to thrive. And that's what we got. And so now as we continue to move forward, as we continue in this next stage that we call YWAC 2.0, Young Women's Initiative, Next Level. What else have we called it? The Turn Up. Okay, we'll call it that next month. After the report settles in, we'll call it the Turn Up because we have a clear path and we know that we didn't land everything quite yet, but we landed so much more. We are so much further ahead than we were this time last year. And there's room, and there's a need, and there's a desire for everyone in this room to participate, and to participate in the ways in which you can, whether that is giving, right? Whether that is showing up and supporting in these ways, whether that's serving, providing the knowledge, and understanding that this work here is lifelong. We need you. We thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Danielle and Joanne. And now I'd like to introduce to the podium New York City Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, the founder and the champion of this initiative.
Good morning, buenos dias to everybody. You know, it's just sitting and listening to these young women is very moving for me personally, and having the great co-chairs alongside that I've worked with on this process is incredible. You know, too often as a society, we cast aside the voices and the experiences of young women, right? Like Gloria, like Amanda, like Cherno. And that is wrong. That is not the way that we need to move forward as a society. If we're gonna advance an agenda of inclusion, of equality, those voices need to be supported, validated, nurtured. They need to be heard. And this process has really been all about that. So it is just really a pleasure to be recognized in the New York Women's Foundation for their commitment to the Young Women's Initiative. And it really is a privilege to stand with all of you in this room that do the work each and every day and who embody what it means to be inspirational. You are all members, supporters, and fighters in this process. And you've been in the business of opening doors and shattering glass ceilings, and you're making a real difference in the lives of women and girls across the city, across this country, across the world. And as indicated, we stood here 1 year ago to talk about the kickoff of this initiative. And this past year, I've had the incredible privilege of walking alongside and someone who has not been mentioned yet here, Ana Oliveira, who was an incredible, strong voice in this process. Danielle Mosley, you heard from Joanne Smith, you've heard from, and the young women here as well, Amanda Cherno and Gloria. We also worked with the de Blasio administration and so many others in this room on a path towards equality that's been needed for far too long. I also want to thank my colleagues in the City Council and the staff of the City Council, some of who are here, who really walked alongside each and every day. Laura and Sasha and all the other staff. We really looked at addressing the unique challenges facing young women and girls, particularly those of color. And so this is the first time that any city has come together to tackle the systemic gender-based inequality that permeates a cis or transgender young woman's access to education, to healthcare, to economic opportunity, and to justice. The Young Women's Initiative sought first and foremost to ask questions, to listen, to gather experiences. And to do that, as has been said, we've talked to the young women themselves because they are the ones that have the experience. They know what best works for them and what doesn't, and what is needed to change how our city, their city, serves its young women. So we brought together the advocates, organizations, service providers like the ones in this room who are on the front lines every day. And so the final product, which hopefully we will unveil shortly, is a set of over 100 recommendations for government to review and consider as we do our work going forward. And really, a couple of quick takeaways. The directly impacted communities know what they need. As government, it is our responsibility to engage them. I believe strongly in participatory governance and the need to open up more seats at the decision-making table. And Young Women's Initiative embodied our vision for inclusive, progressive government. Second, language matters. Young women and girls are constantly fed messages about who and what they are and left with little space to define their experiences for themselves. So this process modeled what we should do each and every day. It used inclusive language that reflected back the strength and resilience of young women in New York City. And lastly, shifting culture to make our city better for young women and girls will take time. And guess what? The New York City Council, like you, is in it for the long haul. So this has been a long, thoughtful, collaborative learning experience with frank and often difficult conversations about what it means to be a young woman in New York City. And we're going to release that full report shortly with recommendations related to policy goals, funding, and much-needed data collection. This report will be a roadmap for our city moving forward as we seek to support our young women and girls. And we can't do this without philanthropy. As indicated, we will commit $10 million, but the New York Women's Foundation has agreed to really help get philanthropy involved and help us raise another 10 so we can put forward those policy recommendations. Thank you very much. It's been great to really be standing up here with these wonderful women. Have a great, great rest of the day.
Yes. Women's Foundation President and CEO, Ana Oliveira.
Good morning. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our annual gathering where we build community and we dare to tackle those issues that many have found untrackable, not resolvable. And what are they? Racial, gender equality, justice, a city that works for all, inclusive government, inclusive communities, and we're a city where people feel and know that they belong. So we come and we stake our ground here, and we honor our grantee partners. And I want you to think that behind every person here, sitting here at the dais, the reason why they are here is because most of the time, grantee partners are invisible. We look at foundations, but we don't look at grantee partners. For us, it's the opposite. Grantee partners lead, as you heard Delaney say before. It's really important. Behind every single one of them is at least an organization, movements, communities, women, families, whose hopes, whose lives, and whose voice they every day are present for. And that's why the foundation is present with them. We were created 29 years ago, as Anne said, by a group of women who said we will not accept the level of inequality in philanthropic investment. But I will say something else. They didn't just accept that, they came together in a very particular way, in a cross-cultural alliance. And from the beginning, in the DNA of the New York Women's Foundation, the model of inclusion and equality of voice at the table, regardless of one's life trajectories or origins, has been a hallmark of the foundation. And from the beginning, they said, having money does not mean we have knowledge. It means we have something that is necessary for everyone, investment, equal investment in our communities. But let's acknowledge and let's bring on same level with us community leaders, as you just heard, who actually know what community needs. So the way that the foundation works is by coming together with you, with donors, with supporters, with grantee partners, and together doing what we cannot do individually. No matter how much money any one of us has, no matter how much knowledge any one of us has, no matter how much, determination any one of us has. The kinds of issues that we were talking about, the work that needs to be done, all the easy stuff was done before us. I just want you to know that. The stuff that remains for us to do is the hard stuff. And to do hard stuff, what do we need to do? We need to come together. So it's this collective effort that produces the kind of results that I want to tell you about since last year here at this breakfast. So the Young Women's Initiative speaks for itself. In addition to that, we launched last year with our partner, the Novo Foundation, a fund, a New York City fund for girls and young women of color. We are really happy to tell you that today there are another 14 foundations that have joined us in that fund. We want to thank them. We want to thank them because it is from this collective philanthropic effort that the commitment of the $10 million and more comes from. So it's something that we were not doing individually, but that together we can do. So that's a very good example. Another thing that I want to tell you that is really important for us is that learning from our own grantee partners, who begin locally working and then bring their work to larger and larger scope. We learned and came together with other public women's foundation sisters organizations in the country and founded Prosperity Together. We stood boldly in D.C. at a White House Council for Women and Girls Conference and announced a minimum commitment of $100 million investing in economic security for women and families most underinvested in the United States. Two of our dear partners, the Miss Foundation and the Minnesota Women's Foundation, are here today, and I am totally indebted to you for your partnership. Together, we do so much more than we do alone. The foundation continued and will always continue to be the very grassroots-oriented foundation. We fund organizations, we fund leaders, we fund groups even before they are constituted in a 501c3 not-for-profit status. Why we do that? Because we have learned that problems and solutions are found in the same place. That those who live and create their lives and the resilience in their communities and chart the future of their communities are the best ones to be supported, to be embraced with mentorship, capacity building, exposure, visibility, further developing their leadership and management skills to fulfill their destiny and what they need for their communities. There's a lot of talk about New York values, so we would like to put it on the record. Put it on the record that New York values inclusion. That New York values democratic participatory democracy, right? And to do that, We need to address the inequalities in voice, the inequalities in power, the inequalities in access to visibility. Who sets the agenda? And that is why we are so pleased to be able to set these partnerships where the equality all come together for a shared purpose. We create better solutions that way. We are smarter, and we don't have to worry that we are imposing solutions on people, that we are transcending what is really our primary credibility. So this past year also saw great advances in the work of our grantee partners. A lot of them related to fundamental workers' rights, dignity and respect for workers. For instance, protections against wage theft, a bigger momentum around paid family leave, some victories in transgender rights in New York and New York City, the Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act, which expands the anti-shackling provisions in the criminal system, the fight for a living wage, minimum of $15 an hour, the rights of hourly workers, having flexible schedules and predictable schedules so they actually can plan their lives, can take care of their families. And also the Nail Salon Bill of Rights, which I think most of us are very familiar with. We also saw enormous advances in the work of our grantee partners around economic security, entrepreneurship for women, and you heard from Jessica Spalding. And by the way, you know, Mother's Day is coming. I just want you to remember that the Harlem Chocolate Factory, spend your money in women's businesses, right? And now just for the foundation, remember, this is the place where you first heard about the Harlem Chocolate Factory, okay? Remember, it was at the breakfast. It was here that you first heard about Hot Bread Kitchen, right? Another thing, so remember, come to the breakfast because you will always hear about incredible women entrepreneurs who are changing the city of New York and beyond. We also had excellent results with our grantee partners, training women and helping them advance in the workplace, get better jobs, move to wages, compensations where they can support their families beyond poverty and can begin to grow. The returns are very high. The foundation provides grants, let's say, around $500,000, and the wage returns for the participants in those programs, given the competence of our grantee partners, is something close to 15 times that. The cooperative movement, which you know has taken hold in New York City, also with support from city government, has become a very important manifestation of an economy that can work for all. So, as we move ahead into the future, I wanted to share with you that I think that we have the privilege of living in times of dire clarity, in times where we are afforded the opportunity to think through options, choices, and to chart our decisions and our actions. And actually, every single one of them matter. The breakfast is a very good example, you know. When we are reaching out to each single one of you, you're not holding the dimension that in this room, there's about 2,200 people coming together, as Ms. Biko said, very early in the morning, undaunted by such things as time, and with a certain sense of urgency, right? It is that sense of urgency that I want to bring to our forefront. Community lives, the women that we're talking about, and I wanted to say very clearly, when I say women, we are talking about all women, and that includes trans women. That includes, you know, I just wanted to say, we are in this phase where we have to make it explicit every time because we don't want people to think that we don't see our trans women as women, okay? I just want to be very clear about that. At the New York Men's Foundation, we do. So every time I say women, I'm also including you. So as we move forward, yes, and we all need to do that, right? As we move forward, I want when you sit here today and when you leave here today, I want you to remember that we ask you to come as you are. Just come as you are and do all that you can do. and do it together. So when the breakfast is done today and you're moving out there, we would love for you to take a little bit of that piece of joy, a little bit of that sense of, I participate and I make a difference on something. But I also want to ask you to ask yourself, what is your next level? What is your next level of stretch? What is it that you are deferring for the day after tomorrow or for tomorrow that could and must be done today? Let's accelerate tomorrow today. Let's accelerate all the changes that we need to see so New York City truly works for all. And New York City truly can share with the rest of the United States and our sisters and brothers how that can be done. That belonging in a city is a right for all. That working and having dignity and being able to support self and family and others is a necessity and a total entitlement of everyone in New York City. So in that spirit, I want to give a few thank yous. I want to begin by thanking the staff of the Marriott that came even earlier than we were here today, yes, and set up this fabulous breakfast for us. And all the while, you know, with a great disposition, just a very, very, very nice, welcoming presence to all of us. I want to thank our volunteers. You saw some incredible women with a kind of a yellow. They came much earlier than all of us, too, much earlier. And you know, they are volunteers. They actually give us our time. Some of them have been doing that for several years in a row. So we are enormously grateful to you. I want to thank talking about fears, those are the founding mothers of the foundation. They are fierce. The board alumni in our board. And I tell you, every year, you know, you think that the board would fade away, the alumni or the founders, or they would kind of mellow. It's the opposite in our case. Every time we listen to them, we are emboldened more. So I thank you for holding that really good egg that is the New York Women's Foundation DNA. And lastly, but not least, I want to thank Ann Delaney, the incredible chair of the New York Women's Foundation, who, you know, leads with a grace, a determination, and a fierceness that only those of you who know her know all of that is so nicely packaged in how she expresses her leadership. But I'm telling you the secret sauce there. And my closest team, which is the staff of the New York Women's Foundation, without which none of this would be happening, and our work with the grantees wouldn't be possible. So let today be a day that we commit to continue to accelerate change, that we commit to individually and collectively stretch ourselves and go to the next level. And let it be a day that Jessica Spaulding's voice, and now the person that I'm going to introduce to you's voice, resonates with us way beyond this morning. So please welcome Faye Gabelstein from Footsteps, a grantee partner of the New York Women's Foundation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Faye Gelbstein, and I am a queer mother and an escapee from the Hasidic ultra-Orthodox Satmar community of Williamsburg. I was raised in an extremely insular community that rejected any access to what they called the outside world. I grew up speaking only in Yiddish and went to an all-girls school which had strict rules forbidding exposure to TV, movies, or books written in the English language under any circumstance. But in my parents' homes, these rules were not so strictly observed. My father and mother struggled with some of the values of the Satmar community, so they brought home carefully selected books and movies and took us to amusement parks and skiing trips we were not allowed to discuss with our friends. This was very confusing to me. On one hand, I was told it was wrong to allow the secular world into your life, and on the other hand, I was allowed to do many forbidden things. I constantly questioned what was true and what wasn't. At the age of 16, I became quite friendly with a fellow classmate. She was a girl, and before long, we became intimately involved. Our relationship was discovered, and the school told us that they were disappointed and disgusted. They made sure that we were kept apart after that. I fell into a deep depression, and when my parents discovered the reason why, they sent me to reparative therapy, which they said would fix me by ending my attraction to women. But as much as I tried, I just could not pray the gay away. After the treatment, I was told I was ready for an arranged marriage. A matchmaker suggested the brother of a friend of mine, and since I got along with her really well, I figured her brother might be a good match for me too. I really wanted to believe that this could work out. I just wanted to be considered normal in my own community. From the start, the marriage was a failure. I had no real experience with men, and I felt trapped and confused by my husband's demands. I was forced into physical intimacy that I did not feel or want. I knew by that time that I wanted out of this relationship. Then, 3 months into the marriage, I found out I was pregnant. My beautiful son was born on January 10, 2011, and for his sake, I tried to give my marriage a fighting chance. But I just could not force myself to fall in love with my husband. I began to fantasize what it would be like to have a different kind of life, so I began going on the internet, trying to find Orthodox Jews who were struggling with their sexuality. And that's where I discovered other people like me. They encouraged me to finally come out to my husband and talk about the prospect of divorce. He became extremely angry and threatened to lock me out of my house. He told me he would take my son away from me. I tried to talk to my parents, but they were not ready to accept that my marriage was over either. That's when I realized I had to do this on my own. I had no support or resources when I decided to leave my husband. No bank account of my own and no credit, which made it impossible to find proper housing. No one in my community would help me find a new home due to the rumors they heard about my sexuality. But a stroke of luck came one day when a concerned friend of mine who was watching my son invited us to stay with her. I got a change of clothes for my house, and I never went back again. Now I was essentially homeless, with a 1.5-year-old child to care for. So I went back to the internet, where I found Footsteps, an organization that supports people who are leaving the Orthodox Jewish community and want to be integrated into mainstream society. There I found a single mother who was a student at Brooklyn College and needed a fellow parent to split the rent with her. Footsteps also connected me with an organization called Unchained at Last, a group that helps women escape arranged marriages by giving them legal representation. They helped me figure out that I could sue my husband for custody in a secular court instead of granting him a religious divorce so he couldn't take my son away from me. After 2 years, I was finally awarded sole physical custody and the right to raise my child with open Jewish values in a non-Orthodox setting. With the encouragement and support of Footsteps, I decided to go back to school. Words cannot begin to describe the feeling I had the day I was accepted at Brooklyn College. Scholarships from Footsteps and the Hebrew Free Loan Society made all of that possible. So today, I am happy to say that I'm in my 3rd year at Brooklyn College. I have my own apartment with my 5-year-old son, and I have a wonderful partner who is in the audience and in my life. My goal is to pursue a career in philosophy so I can teach others how to question their own reality, because that is what enabled me to completely change my own world. Making the choice to leave my ex-husband and my community and choosing to come out of the closet and fighting for what was rightfully mine ultimately ended up saving my life. I sacrificed a lot, but what I got in return was a second chance. I have my own choice and the wonderful people at Footsteps to thank for. Thank you.
Please welcome former board members of the New York Women's Foundation, Anita Chanapati and Rhonda Joy McLean.
Good morning, everyone. We are so thrilled to be here, I can't even tell you. Do you like my jacket?
The only reason I did this is because I wore my best, because to me, this is the place to be today. Anita looks pretty sharp too, right? Anita and I wore our best because we want you to do your best for the foundation this morning. All of these beautiful people here do the real work in the trenches. We are here to fund that work so we can push it forward. I'm supposed to read you a lot of stuff about how I got here and what I did, but we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to do it fast and still make it fun. Okay, so as a former longtime volunteer, I got here really through Marjorie Cadigan. I hope, Marjorie, you're here somewhere today. She's a former board member and my longtime friend. She invited me to one of these power breakfasts. This is nothing but power in the room about 25 years ago, and I never left. I've been on the board. I've co-chaired the board with Tony, who's also here. It's just a fabulous place to be. The main thing I want to say is that I see us as an army of women and a few good men who pull our resources together to push the city forward. You've seen all the amazing things the foundation is in the forefront of with partners. I think we all see ourselves as partners as well. When I was coming up in my small town in North Carolina, we always gave, but we usually didn't have money, so we gave what we had. Cans of food at Thanksgiving, hand-me-down clothes. You know, you did the same thing. We didn't think of it as philanthropy. You just did it because it was the right thing to do. It was a way of giving your best back. When I came to the breakfast, for the first time, I felt that my little whatever it was, I think I gave $50, whatever it was I could afford, I really felt it mattered. Even though maybe the woman next to me gave $100 and the woman across the way gave $100,000, every single cent matters. And not only does it matter, but it's needed. Look at our world. Just look at the news. Look at what's happening. We have the fabulous Young Women's Initiative, but look at the challenges that we face. We got to fund this baby. We got to make this work. So our mantra was, and still is, you don't have to be a millionaire to be a philanthropist, but you do have to write a check. All right? So I know that you are here, you've been waiting for this moment to make a difference. We're gonna give it to you. So we want you to empower yourself today, and I want to invite Anita to tell her foundation story.
So I'm gonna be very quick as well, because we really want to get to the point here. I came to the foundation because I wanted to give back to New York City, a city that gave me so many opportunities. And I found that I also wanted to be engaged and to have an impact. And what little I gave in this room was able to have an impact because of our collective action. And the little amount of money that I was able to give today also will go forward to all the issues that are important to me: girls' education, supporting women entrepreneurs, domestic violence. All of that is covered by the New York Women's Foundation. They're on the forefront of finding solutions to the problems that face our city, mostly because we are partnering with the experts, all these beautiful experts here. So while we focus on women and girls, we know that when we focus on women and girls, the impact is immeasurable. That when you help a woman, you help her family, you help her neighborhood, and you ultimately help the community, and that's the whole city, that's all of us. So with that, I also wanted to say that I found my activist voice here. After I joined the board and became a board alumna, I know that this breakfast is where all this engagement coalesces. You know, this is the room where we all come together. We acknowledge the credible work that's been done, we celebrate inspiring leaders, and then we leave here imbued with a sense of purpose that we can make a difference if we all work together. This is the room where we all join together and rise to meet the city's challenges. This is the room where we get things done. This is the room where it happens.
So now, I'm still Baptist. I don't want any soft money. I know you've heard it before. I'm serious.
So here's the thing. You've probably already figured this out, but there's some beautiful blue pens and there's some lovely envelopes to match that are on your table. We're color coordinated. And we want you to beat your personal best. We want to break the one-day fundraising record for the foundation. You can do it. Write that check. Anita and I are writing our checks. We're waving them in the air.
So we're going to ask you all to wave your checks in the air. I'm going to take a video so we can post it later so everyone can see what it looks like.
Wave your checks. Woo-hoo!
Wave your checks, everybody.
We want you to give a stretch gift. Add another 0. Come on, girls. You can do it.
This is what philanthropy looks like.
We rule the world. All right. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a great day.
So I would now like to introduce our next speaker, Dina Habib-Powell. Dina is the head of Goldman Sachs Impact Investing Business and president of the Goldman Sachs Foundation. As head of Impact Investing, Dina is responsible for the firm's investments in housing and community development projects, deploying more than $4 billion in loans and in equity investments to revitalize neighborhoods and underserved communities. As president of the Goldman Sachs Foundation, Dina oversees strategic programs that foster global economic growth, including 10,000 Women, which offers business and management education to women entrepreneurs across the globe. Much like our final honoree, Dina is a powerful supporter of women entrepreneurs, which makes her the perfect person to introduce her. Please join me in welcoming Dina Powell to the stage.
Good morning. It is a beautiful room. I am so honored to be here this morning to have a chance to tell you all about the Tory Burch Foundation, but most importantly, the extraordinary woman, Tory Burch. I really want to thank Kathy Isaacson, I want to thank Anna and the New York Women's Foundation for giving me this opportunity to honor my friend. All of you know Tory Burch, the chairman and CEO who created this extraordinary fashion house in just a decade. You may also know that she started this company because she actually wanted to start a foundation that helped other women achieve their dreams. Over the years, I have seen Tory do some of the most extraordinary things in a very tough business, with ambition, with grace, and with so much dedication. I also have seen her build her foundation, which is so focused on helping women who don't necessarily always have the confidence as entrepreneurs to succeed, but they look at her and they see what an inspiration she is. Two of the women that we have worked together on through the Goldman Sachs Foundation and the Tory Burch Foundation are here today. Two business owners, Jenny Rips of Owl's Brew and Aaliyah Baylor of the most awesomely outrageous bakery in Harlem called Make My Cake. I can tell you, because that's where I've ordered my daughter's birthday cakes for the last 3 years. It is amazing. When I asked them to describe Tory, they said at first it's really hard to get to be with Tory because it's overwhelming to be with such an extraordinary woman, but she is so relatable in a rock star kind of way. Aaliyah said, when I watched Tory be so successful and yet take the time to inspire other women, I realized that I wanted to do what Tory had done, to build in my company's DNA the goal of supporting other women. If Tory can do it, I can do it too. I also have had the privilege of seeing Tory represent the company in so many settings, like when Mrs. Michelle Obama asked Tory to be the speaker at the White House lunch where Mrs. Obama dedicated her inaugural dress to the Smithsonian. And I have to tell you, Mrs. Obama talked so glowingly of Tory, but the most fun part was seeing Mrs. Obama's mom decked out in Tory Burch, saying, "Hi, Tory." She has a way of making People famous and people who aren't so famous feel so special. And that's the thing that I want to close with. Tory Burch, the mom of 3 amazing young men who are here today. Tory Burch, the daughter of Reva, who is sitting here weeping. Tory Burch, the sister. Tory Burch, the friend. Throughout the years, Tory has been there for me when I needed her, whether it was in times of joy or in times of challenge. I really believe that is what defines a truly extraordinary woman, one who is not only great, but one who always remains good to the people she loves. One of Tory's favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Tory makes all of us feel so special, and it is my honor to present her the Celebrating Women Award.
Thank you, Dina. Wow, this is extraordinary. First, I want to thank Dina for being an incredible friend, serving on our foundation board, and being an inspiration but a role model to all women. What you have done is extraordinary. I want to thank the New York Women's Foundation. It is such an honor to be here. It is such an honor to be honored alongside so many extraordinary women. And Delaney and Oliviera, what an organization you have. I heard about it a long time ago from Ginny Day and from Kathy Isaacson, and I never imagined it would be quite like this. I have the greatest admiration for the work you do. To help women and girls is so aligned with our foundation's mission. We empower women entrepreneurs. The 19th century American abolitionist and writer Harriet Beecher Stowe noted, "Women are the real architects of society." I have to agree, to a point. Women have the vision, they have the passion, and the blueprint for building a better society. They just have some challenges. They don't always have the tools or the opportunities. That is why I started our foundation, so we could address just that. Drawing on our experiences starting a business, meeting with hundreds of women in business from around the world, it became very clear that women had unique challenges. Whether it was balancing work and family, access to capital, or just the fundamental basic business skills they needed and education to see their dreams realized. That is why we started the foundation in 2009. We wanted to address all of those challenges and provide women with access to affordable loans, education, and the networking they needed to take their businesses further. I am so proud to say that more than 100 women have graduated from our education program with Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. It's an incredible, It's an incredible 4-month course that provides women small business owners with practical skills from negotiating and marketing to developing a strategic plan for growth. We have seen some great results, so great that we'll be expanding it through different cities around the United States. And with our extraordinary partner, Bank of America, we have created a capital program that has been dispersing more than $1 million in affordable loans to women entrepreneurs each month. I want to thank Tom Montag, Ann Finucane, and Haley Boski, not only for your great partnership and for being here this morning, but for finally showing me what impact and scale really means. Since 2014, we have provided access to more than $14 million to nearly 450 women entrepreneurs in 17 states. And we aren't stopping there. The program's success prompted the bank to recently double its investment to $20 million over the next 2 years and expand into 4 additional states with an eye for even further growth. Aside from our great partners, which make our foundation extraordinary, I would say Our entrepreneurs are the most inspiring thing about what I do. Often they are single mothers, they have jobs, 2 jobs, and they're trying to build a business at the same time. Their tenacity and determination are extraordinary. By investing in women, we are strengthening families, communities, we are creating jobs and helping to power economic growth. Equal opportunity and equal pay is not a favor. It should be a given. I want to say that one more time. You don't have to clap again, but I do want to say it one more time. Equal opportunity and equal pay is not a favor. It is a given. Should be a given. Women have made tremendous progress, but we have such a long way to go. We see it in the workplace where women are paid less than men. We continue to be underrepresented in leadership roles, and I'm so proud to be leading an organization with many women in executive positions. This is rare, and I want to get it to a place where it's not. We see it in communities across the country where women are facing more economic challenges than men. We see it among women entrepreneurs who struggle to access the resources they need to launch and grow their businesses. We can do better, and we must do better. And each one of us has a role to play in moving the needle on gender parity, whether it's talking about the issue, supporting organizations that empower women, hiring women, or encouraging them to embrace ambition. It's an easy thing for each of us to do, and the impact is so profound. Just as importantly, we must bring men into this conversation. As a mother of 3 handsome boys, who happen to be right to my right, hi Henry, Nick, and Sawyer, I want to engage you as well. You and I have benefited from the wisdom of your grandmother. She is also here. She taught us my mother taught us, and my 3 brothers, that there are no differences in what men and women can accomplish. It is essential that boys and men be included in the effort to address historic gender inequities. The New York Women's Foundation understands this too, hosting national training programs to engage men and boys in preventing violence and discrimination against women and girls. Wow, what else is better than that? At the end of the day, equality is not a men's issue. It is not a women's issue. It's an issue of humanity. It is up to all of us to be not just the architects, but the builders, to reimagine the world as it is and create the world as we want it to be, not only for women, but for everyone. Thank you very much.
So before we end this morning, we want to thank our interpreters who have been so generously working with us the whole morning. We want to invite all of our honorees and our incredible Flor de Toloache back on stage, because we're going to leave here today honoring the spirit of Cinco de Mayo, getting very deep in our roots, and moving forward with joy and determination.
See you next year at our 30th anniversary on May 11th.
y voy llorando por tus besos y voy sufriendo, no lo niego, anhelando tu cariño y somos amor sincero. Ay, 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 un amor sincero. Ay, 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 es lo que quiero. Ay, 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 un amor sincero. Ay, 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 es lo que quiero. Dicen que aunque hoy yo llore, mi corazón latearé. Mañana será otro día y el recuerdo del ayer. Dice que aunque hoy yo llore, mi corazón latearé. Mañana será otro día y el recuerdo del ayer. Por eso río, río, río. Por eso río, río,